In today's video, I'm going to be showing you on how you can easily add these very cool fire shutters into your Roblox game. So before we get started, this is unfortunately the last episode of my realistic tutorial. Although I hope you did enjoy watching it, I know I had a lot of fun making it, but that is the very end of these series. But if you want me to ever do them again in the future, let me know and maybe we can see a 2024 version of this. But apart from that, let's get onto the tutorial. In addition to that, another massive shout out goes to Record, who created these firewalls, or fire shutters as I like to call them. And without further ado, let's get started. So first of all, we're obviously going to have to get the model, and we can do that by clicking on the get model button. And now we can head over to Roblox Studio and install this wherever you want. Also, the link to this model will be mentioned down below, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Okay, so here we are inside of Roblox Studio with my Explorer open, my properties open, and a little wall for this to go. Now keep in mind your wall can be however big you want it to be, but you can always change and scale the different shutters. So let's open up our toolbox, and then we need to go to my models, and then you should see the Record firewall shutter system here, and then you can click on it to insert it. Okay, so I'm just going to drag it over to the side. Oopsies, I'm just going to drag it over to the side, and I'm going to explain what every single part of this does. And you may be thinking to yourself, oh my god, there are a lot of shutters. Now they're not all the same, they do have different textures and things about them, but let me just quickly explain what every single component does here. So first of all, we have this little interactive controller thing, and how this works is it essentially looks for all of the gates, and then it's an interactive panel where you can control all of these shutters from. Then you have your desktop controller, which is essentially the same thing, however this is password protected, so you could maybe put this out in the wild, whereas this you'd have to put it into a locked room. Then next you have your fire shutters, and obviously these close to prevent fires from spreading, but you can also use them to roleplay for like having the shutters at shops, for example. Just all of these things you can use them for. And then there are fire curtains which can come on from these other ones. So just real quick, let me just quickly show you what these different shutters look like, just so you can get an idea. So just ignore what I'm doing here, I just want to show you exactly how all of these shutters look like, and if I just close them, you can see, okay, it is a bit loud, so I'm just going to turn that down for you. But you can see all of these shutters have a different pattern. So this is lighter, this is darker, this is windowed, that's not windowed. But they all have different textures and stuff that may be interesting for you. So that's just a heads up before we get started. Then the other thing here we have is the warning display, and this can be used to spread useful information to passerbys, so you can add messages, and I'm also sure that you can customize messages on here. Then we have the mini warning display, which is over here. What this does is it alerts people that the shutters are closing. I think it's the thing that also makes the beeping noise. Then here we have our key switches. These are two of the same things, although they have different colors. But what this can do is you can use your key here to manually open them by twisting the thing. And then next, I think over here is our RF remote, and this can be used to remotely control these shutters, a bit like a key for a car. And then finally you have your emergency stop button, which is this one, the emergency escape button, so if the shutter closes on somebody they can open it up, the industrial manual control, which is this, which is obviously very industrial. And then finally you have your system timer, where you can automatically open and close the shutters. Okay, great. In addition to this, you can link this system to a fire system, I believe. However, that is quite complicated, and I don't think we're going to be going over that today. But first, it's time to get this system set up. So now that we have all of this downloaded and everything great, we can change the configuration script. So let's have a look. And also notice how we have zones. So this is very important to note. Each zone can have as many shutters as you want. However, you can control the shutters via the zones. Okay, so you could say, for example, shot zone 1, for example, or shot zone 2. But that's the main way to control them. Think of it as a group for the shutters. Okay, so inside of each, let's just ignore that for now. There is a configuration script here. If I'm being honest, I would just keep this all default. I think this is great to have it as all default. Of course, you can link a fire system here if you want to, but I don't know, and I don't want to go over that right now, so let's just ignore that. And that's pretty good, but for now I'd keep that all as the presets. Now let's use one of these fire shutters. So I'm going to have 2 fire shutters, okay? Once again, you can have as many of these as you want, you don't need to have all of them. And I'm going to move this over here. And then I can scale this up if I want, so let's scale this up a bit. Okay, oops, that is a bit too big, let's scale it down. And then let's line it up, that's looking great, that is perfectly aligned. Maybe I could even make that a bit finer like that. And there you go, fits perfectly. And then also you can notice, inside of our zone 1 is also all of these controls, okay? So all of these controls can be linked, all of these controls specifically. I think the tablet, yeah, the controller, these two are not zone specific, but all of these are zone specific, okay? So each one of these you'll need for each one of your individual zone, if that makes any sense, okay? So once we've done that, we're going to put over our display here, okay? So that's looking good. And then we're going to put a notifier thing over here on the other side. And then, what else could we add? Manual operation, let's add that on the side. I really want to just use everything so I can show you how everything works. Also, important to note when making these things is to always have an avatar, just so you have a reference for how big things are. So this is already massive, but I'm just going to keep it at that height. Then we have the shutter time thing, the emergency stop, let's add that too, next to our thing here. And I'm just going to add all of these things. What else would I want? I want this, let's just all move them. I'll delete this actually, because we only need one. Actually, because I also wanted to demonstrate another zone, I'm going to duplicate this shutter. And I'm just going to plonk this over here. And I'm going to chuck this one into zone 2. And then along with that, I'm going to chuck one key switch into zone 2. Because remember guys, each one of these manual control outposts only control that entire zone, okay? So this is zone 2. And then inside of zone 1, I'm also going to just bring all of these across. Oops, do not duplicate them. Rotate. And then move that over here. Now it's important to note that the key, the shutter key, and of course the firewall shutter remote are both tools. So I would put them inside of starter tools. Of course, you can obviously make a team script or something like that to only give these keys to a certain group of players. However, I'm just going to chuck it in starter pack just for the demonstration of today. Now you can have as many zones as you want, just make sure to give them different names. Like here I have zone 1 and 2, and then I'm going to delete zone 3 and zone 0 as I'm not using them today. Okay, perfect. And then it's time to work on the next thing. Now you obviously will have to link this warning display over. So inside of configuration for the warning display, you can click on connection shutter, and then you can connect it to whichever one you want. I'm just going to keep it on the firewall shutter FW1 just for now. And that's important to obviously link it up. And then for the remote, I believe, let me just have a look at that. We can open up the shutter key. No, not the shutter key, silly old me. The shutter, there. Okay, yeah, I don't think there's anything up to change here. That's all good and snazzy. The shutter system. Oh yeah, and then you just have to make sure that's connected to the system, obviously, but I think by default it's already connected. So that is not a problem. And of course, for the shutters, you can change all of the values inside of there. So you can customize all of the configuration, for example, inside of your doors. But once again, I'm just going to keep that all as it is. Beautiful. Time to move on to the next thing. Now, I can quickly explain this. However, I don't think that's going to be valuable for everyone here. So I'm just going to leave a table down below in the description where you can see where all of these do. But they're pretty self-explanatory. I mean, the name all means really what they mean. And also, I do believe we can have a configuration for the display. Let me just see. Yeah, you can actually change the configuration. So you could change what it shows on the side of this display. So let's just be a bit funny. And then for the let's say fire shutters opening, let's just put a little smiley face, because everyone knows everything's well and good and it's all opening up again. So there we go, here are emojis, and then let's just add a smiley face, guys. So smile, here he is. Also, you can press Windows and dot, by the way, to get that, and we can paste that into here. They look really weird in the code editor, but that is fine. And there you go, they're looking all pretty good and nice. Okay, now, let's give everything a whirl and just go over how this works. So if I head into play right now, let's just demonstrate on how everything works. So I'm loading up into the game here. Just going to close my plugins on the side. And here we initialize with our shutter key and our firewall shutter remote, okay? Now you can see that this is actually locked. So we're going to probably have to set a password for this. Let me see if I can figure this out. So we open this up, configuration, and yeah, we need to put code in. So right now it's to 1234, but I'm going to set it to 8765. Remember to set it to something unique so that people can't hack into it. Now once we're in here, let's just move back over to here. I did put this at a bit of an awkward place, so 82675. Okay, hold on, I'll zoom in like this. 82765. Oh my god, I forgot it. Hold on, let's check. That's embarrassing. I set it to 8765. There we go. Okay, 8765. Okay, so let's go back up to the monitor. Here it is. 8765. And now we're inside of here. Now remember that we have our zones, okay? And the zones we set up today were 1 and 2. Once again, inside of workspace, we can see zones 1 and 2. But first, I'm going to head over all of these manual things, okay? So the first thing I want to explain here is the firewall shutter remote. So like I mentioned before, it's a bit of a way to imagine it as a car key, okay? So on the right here, we control which zone we want to affect. And obviously, we have zone 1 and 2. So zone 1 is over here, if I remember correctly. And zone 2 is over here. So let's just head over to zone 2. And then let's just say we want to close zone 2. We can use these two buttons to move up and down. So zone 2 is selected. And then I believe this button is to close it. And there you go. You can see the shutter is now closing. Also, a good thing to note is if anyone is ever stuck underneath your shutter will stop and wait for that person to move. Let's see. And as you can see, it now moves down. And then once it's closed, let's just reopen it back up again. Obviously, that wasn't fully closed. I just clicked on it early. And that's essentially how you use the shutter remote. Now, let's go over some of the manual things we have over here. Fake me. Let's just delete them. Okay. And there's a couple of things here we can look at. So we obviously have our little key slot here. We have the industrial control and the shutter time unit. I believe this, I want to say the shutter time unit uses the Roblox time. However, I'm not doubly sure on that. Let me just check. So open time 10, close time 17. So if we just click on play right now, and we set the time, I could be completely wrong here, don't get me wrong. And we set the time to be 17. Yep. So basically, oh, that's loud, hold on. So in basic principle, how this works is using Roblox time. That's really important to note, which you can set inside of here. You can set the time when the shutter closes and when it opens. So you can make, for example, a little shop game, and when it's time for it to close in game and time is, for example, 5 PM, which is the average closing time of many shops, the shutters will automatically go down. For now, I'm just going to delete it because we don't need it. And I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but it's important to remember that you can duplicate these components as many times as you want. So that's a super useful, important thing to know. Okay, so now let's just quickly go over and demonstrate what I wanted to demonstrate beforehand. So I'm loading up into the game here. Okay, let's have a look. Okay, and here you go. So obviously we have our manual shutter operation button. Now for this to work, we just have to click on it and it's like a switch. And as you can see, oh, it's loud, but our fire shutter closing thing comes up. Let me just turn down the volume a bit so it's a bit more manageable. And obviously this one also shuts if you go underneath it. And then once it's closed, I believe this just shut. Obviously the loud beeping is coming from our bleeper there. And now that it's closed, it should hopefully be closed. There we go. We can also toggle it by doing the opposite interaction. So if we now press this, you can see my custom emoji should appear. There we go, loving that. If I click on this button now, it emergency stops it. So for example, if someone got stuck in the machine or something, you could stop it. And then I think you can toggle it again. Oh no, I think you have to restart the operation. Yeah, you need to restart the operation. Okay, that is looking snazzy and good. Okay, now let's just wait for that to fully go up all the way. And then here we are with our emergency shutter release. and all of this stuff. So now that it's back open again, we're going to use the manual control here. So here, with our industrial control, we can manually move it, manually set it, and manually configure it, of course. And you can just play around with that as you wish. Then finally, we have our shutter key. So we put in the key, it will start going down. And then we put the key in again, it should start going up. Cool thing about this shutter is you can change it midway, which is what I really like. And also, it's such a sleek design. And then, of course, we got our button control here, which is quite explanatory. So now, let's pretend all of these controls were away. So let's just put this down. And then let's pretend, all of our keys, all of our controls disappeared. Let's say we were on the other side, okay? Now, obviously, if you're a person stuck inside a building, there is no other way out. Except for this useful button. So, let's say it's all the way down. It's shut. And typically, this sign also wouldn't be there if you were inside. This should be on the outside of the building. And let's say it's emergency, whatever, and we need to get out of the building and we're stuck and we can't press anything else. We click on this, and it will open it to a halfway point, let the people get out, and then it will close on itself again, which I think is super cool. So there you go. We could run and escape in the emergency, and now we're all safe, and then eventually, again, this will close. Now, one more final thing we want to look at is once again this control, and embarrassingly, again, you can also hit that closing, by the way. I have forgotten the password, but if I check here, no, okay, hold on, I need to just quickly get it. It's going to be, can we remember it, 87 something? It is 8765, okay, let's give that a quick go now and see if that works. Okay, so I'm coming up here, 8765, 8765. Okay, I misclicked. Hold on. Let me get into a better camera view like this. 8765. There we go. We're in. And here we can change the zone. So let's head to zone +1. Yeah, you can see what zone we have selected by clicking here. And then we can click on open or close. As you can see, zone 1 is now closing. We can also open it. And obviously we can reset it to hide all the commands. And we can log out. And then it's pretty much the same with our little tablet thing here. We could put that on the side of the wall in a private room. We can zone +1 to select which zone we want to control in the top right. Let's say zone 2, and then we can close it. Okay, it's going to close. Or we can reset it to hide all the commands, and then we can open it again. So I think this is a really cool system. And I think there is one more thing we can go. I think there's a API we can use, so let's just have a quick look. Yeah, so inside of here we have our network controls and that. So if we just click on script and just make a script in here, I think what we can do, or hold on, I can't find the API. Is the API for each shutter? Hold on, let's have a quick look. Ah, here is it. Okay, so to define, okay, so there is some API control that we can have here. It's a bit confusing, but let's just create a script then, and let's see if this will work. So, let's put a script inside of, in here, and then we're gonna say, so we need to get the API bindable event, obviously. So let's say local API equals script.parent.api, and then we're assigning the value of this variable to be the API path. Then what we can do is we can just say API fire, fire like this, kind of ironic for fire shutters, and then we can pass a zone, a command, and a C time. Okay, so let's say zone 1, then we're going to put a comma to move on to the next parameter, and let's say close. And then let's say C time, for example, and this will be how long it takes. So let's just say 0, or how long it will take before it shuts. Okay. Obviously you need to pass all of these parameters. If you were to set it to 15, it'd wait 15 before shutting them. And I think you can have the command. You can have open, which opens the shutters, close, which closes them, release, which is the emergency release, open time, time open. So you can set a time for it to open. So if you're going to use a timed close, I think you need to say, for example, time_close, and that's how close on zone 1. And now let's just print open, and I believe, or close it, and I believe this should now work. So let's just pop open our output, slide this up here, give this a whirl and see if this works, and that should shut it immediately. Yep, and as you can see, it works perfectly. Great, okay, so if you had any issues or questions about that, feel free to join our Discord down below. I really hope this tutorial helped you, and I'm sad to say it's the end of this series, but thank you everybody who's been listening into this series. That's all from me. Have a wonderful night, and thank you for tuning in.